Hello, greetings everyone. So this is Sheikh Tipu Rahman, working as an aptitude trainer in Madanpalli Institute of Technology and Science. So here, our college meets in association with AICTE has started a scheme called Prerna scheme, where students from SC/ST background are trained to get seat for pursuing higher educations. Okay, so the topic which is one of the important topic for any entrance exam to pursue their career in next level, that is PG level. So the title of the topic is data sufficiency. So today we are going to discuss about data sufficiency, which is one of the important topic in quantitative aptitude as well as reasoning aptitude. Okay, so let us further discuss about it. So data sufficiency. So what do you mean by data sufficiency? That is a very big question. So data sufficiency means, what does it means to have sufficient data? So the data provided are sufficient when it is possible to determine exactly one answer from the given information. Okay. The data provided is insufficient when more than one answer fits the given information. So usually what happens, the question pattern that they ask in data sufficiency is, there will be a question followed by two statements. Okay. So this question has two statements and there will be five options. So what are those options and everything we'll discuss in the upcoming slide. Need not to worry. See, our point is very clear. To answer this question, whether only one statement is required or two statements are required is what is important. So based on the, again we have different combinations. So where only one is sufficient to answer the question. Option B states only two statement is sufficient. Both one and combined sufficient, but individually they are not sufficient. D is either one or two individually are sufficient, as well as E means neither combining are not sufficient. Okay. So these are the different possibilities. So here the data provided are sufficient. So let us just start with the basic. So what do you mean by data sufficiency, or what does it means to have sufficient data? The data provided are sufficient when it is possible to determine exactly one answer from the given information. Okay. So that means from the given information, if you can determine only one answer, then the data is said to be sufficient. Now what is data insufficient? That means the data provided is insufficient when more than one answer fits the given information. Okay. To throw more light on it, let us discuss one example. What do you mean by sufficient data? This is an example. If x plus 2 equal to 5, what is the value of x? See, only thing is my concern is what is the value. My concern is not the value of x. My concern is whether only single information or more than one information fits this value of x. That means if you solve this, I'll get x as 3 because 3 plus 2 is 5. Apart from 3, do I get any other value? No. So that means this is said to be a sufficient data. Instead of 3, if I put any other value, I'm not going to satisfy this given statement. So this is said to be data sufficient. Okay, or the data is sufficient enough to answer the question from the given statement. Now what is insufficient data? Insufficient means if x plus y equal to 5, what is the value of x? Now here x is a variable as well as y is a variable. When you add, you'll get 5. They have not given any information regarding whether x and y are positive or negative. We don't know anything. It can be minus 1 plus 6. It can be 0 plus 5. It can be 1 plus 4. There are a lot of possibilities. That means there is no particular or single value of x that satisfies this equation. Because again, I don't know what is a particular value of 5. So this kind of statement clearly mention the data is insufficient. Now, again, come back to the definition. The data provided are sufficient when it is possible to determine exactly one answer from the given information. So this is a given information if x plus 2 equal to 5 and we have to find the value of x. That means clearly it states that only one answer from the given information is enough to give the answer for this. But if you see, the data provided is insufficient when more than one answer fits the given information. Now, if you see here, more than one answer, that means x value and y value both are variables here. So whatever value of x I change, y value also changes. So there is no fixed value. That means I'll get more than one answer that fits the given information. So the data is called insufficient. So how we apply in the given questions, how to solve? There are a lot of things, and it is one of the easiest topic if you take it as seriously. But if you take it lightly, there is a lot of scope that you'll end up in confusion. Okay. So let us discuss further. Now, let us take more examples to check whether data is sufficient or not. So the first tip is find two different answers that fits the given information to check if the given information is sufficient or not. Now, let us take an example. A room is filled with men and women. Okay, and they haven't told how many men and how many women. So there is a question mark for both. If 10% of men in the room own cat, what percent of people in the room are male cat owner? Okay. Now what I have to do, I have to try with different values and see whether I am going to get only one single information to fit this case, or I'll get more than one information. Let me take the example further. Okay. Case 1. I have assumed there are 40 men and 60 women because they are not given any data, I can assume any value. And also it is said that if 10% of men in the room owns cat, that means what is 10% of 40? 10% of 40 is 4. So 4 men owns cat out of 100 people in the room, correct? What percent of people in the room are male cat owners? Now the question is very clear. Total how many people are there? 100 people, out of which only 4 people owns the cat. So in total 4 out of 100, that is 40 and plus 60 women, that is 4% are male cat owners. So 4 by 100 into 100. So 4% is the answer. Clear? Now I have to check whether I get any other answer apart from 4. So let me consider case 2. Hope case 1 is clear to everybody. So let me consider case 2. So case 2, instead of 40 men I have taken as it is 40, but instead of 60 women I have taken 10 women. You can take any value. Again we'll do the same thing. It is being told 10% of men in the room owns cat. So 10% of 40 will become 4. So there are 4 men who owns cat. Now the question is what percent of people in the room are male cat owner? Now here the denominator changes. In this case the denominator was 100 because there were 100 people. Now there are how many people? 50 people. So how many out of 50 are male cat owners? 4. So 4 by 50 into 100. I want to calculate the percentage. So I'll end up with the answer as 8%. So in this case I got 4%, in this case I got the answer as 8. You take any value, you will get different answers. So ultimately the answer is the data provided here is insufficient. It might take some time for me to explain this, but in the exam it's quite easy. Just at the looking at the data, you can easily say whether the data is sufficient or not. Okay? Okay, let's move forward. So, first tip, as I already said, the first tip in solving data sufficient is find two different answers that fits the given information to check if the given information is sufficient or not. Based on that, you have to go with the option. That is tip number 1. Now, there is a second tip is be aware of assumptions you make. So ultimately, don't make assumption. That is a clear-cut statement here we have mentioned while solving data sufficiency related problems. Okay. Now, let me take an example. If a b equal to 7, a not equal to 1, is a equal to 7. This is a given statement. Now, many people like in a hurry they say yes, a equal to 7 because a is not equal to 1, a equal to 7. They have nowhere mentioned that a b equal to 7 means a equal to 1, b equal to 7. It can be even like this, a equal to 1 by 7 and b can be 49 as well because ab again end up with 7. So there are multiple values. Okay, so don't make assumption. ab, the product of a and b is 7. A and b, they have not stated it as an integer or decimal or anything fraction. If a is not equal to 1, a equal to 7 is not correct. So don't make assumption. Clear? Next. One more example to be aware of making assumptions. If xyz are points on a line, xy is 10, yz is 5. What is xz? So many people assume this way, xyz, and they'll say xy is 10, yz is 5, and they ultimately say xz equal 15. But again, this is wrong assumption because they have nowhere mentioned that the points are in this order xyz. There would be one more case where xy is 10 and z will be here, which is 5. In this case, xz can also be 5. So I'll get more than one answer satisfying this given statement. So again, if you assume, you'll end up with wrong answer. So don't make assumptions. Clear? Okay, next. So that is the second tip. Now third tip is simplify everything you can. So before you start to check whether data is sufficient or not, the ultimate suggestion for everybody is please simplify the given statements. Then check for data sufficient or insufficient to get correct answers. Now here they have given something. Is 3x plus 2 greater than 2x plus 9? So you can simplify it first, then you can check for data sufficient. If 3x, 2x come this side, I'll get 3x minus 2x greater than will be as it is and 2 will go that side. So 9 minus 2. So 3x minus 2x is x, 9 minus 2 is 7. So the ultimate question, final question is x greater than 7? Now based on the given information, you can easily say whether data is sufficient or not. Okay. So what is the third tip? Simplify everything you can. Clear? That's the thing they are going to ask. Now, so there is one more thing. They have given one more example, and we have to simplify it first before we proceed with the actual checking for data sufficient or insufficient. Okay. So the organizers of a cricket game sold two types of ticket in an event, youth and adult. If they sold 560 total tickets, how many youth tickets did they sell? That means they have sold two types of tickets. One is youth, let's say, and the other is adult. Let's say youth is X tickets, adult is Y tickets. So total tickets they sold is 560. Okay. Now, if X plus Y equal to 560, how many youth ticket did they sell? So what is the X value? This is the simplified version of the given question. If you get the simplified version, based on the further information given in the sentences or statements, you can check whether data is sufficient or insufficient. Clear? Okay. Same thing. X plus y is 560. What is the value of x? That is tip number 3. Now, fourth one. So this is one of the beauty of data sufficiency, that you need not to use any calculators, you need not to use any huge calculation, because only thing you have to be smart enough to check whether data is sufficient or not. This is the best part of it. So only as far as you need to, but be careful. Now 243 into x is 7981. What is x? See, don't rush by solving 7 x equals 7981 by 243. You will get answer, but my question is very simple. Is data sufficient or insufficient? Because I get only unique value of x from the given statements. So no need to solve this further. Only thing you can say is data is sufficient. That's what it states. Solve only as far as you can, but be careful. That's it. Clear? No need to solve it, but check whether data is sufficient or insufficient. Okay. Let me take one more example. 4x square minus 3x plus 1 equal to 3x square minus 5x. What is value of x? Now first simplify this from the last step. Simplify. 4x square minus 3x square is x square minus 3x plus 5x, that is plus 2x plus 1 equal to 0. Find the value of x. Now if you say x value is unique here, because the quadratic equation you will get only one value. Two values will be same here for this particular quadratic equation, so you'll get unique value. So data is sufficient. That's it. No need to proceed further. Okay. Now this is the workflow. So just let me go one more, the 4 tips that are important for data sufficiency. Okay. The tip number 1 is first, whatever is the given data, to find two different answers that fits the given information, to check if the given information is sufficient or not. So once you're done with that, okay, then you can proceed with the answers. Now tip number 2 is always be aware of the assumption. While checking, ensure that you don't assume. Okay, you have to just stick to the facts and ensure you should not assume the given data. We have discussed a couple of examples for this. Next, tip number 3 is always simplify everything before you can. Okay, before you proceed. So you have to simplify. This is an example. Okay, we have discussed a couple of examples here, how to simplify this. Okay, and tip number 4 is always solve only as much you need. No need to be precise with the calculation, but you have to be clear whether data is sufficient or not. So these are the 4 tips that helps you to understand the data sufficiency. Now let us discuss about the workflow. So as I said, there will be a question followed by 5 statements, And these statements need not to be in this particular order every time. You have to go through the options every time when you go through the questions of data sufficiency. Now question followed by statements 1 and 2. Okay. Now we have further examples, you can go through it. Now let's see how the workflow happens. Now what I am doing is, there is a question, I am checking statement 1. Okay. Now if statement 1 is correct, if statement 1 is correct, what I do? Then I'll check for statement 2. If statement 2 is wrong, that means what is my answer? My answer is option A. What does A means? A means statement 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question, but not 2. Similarly, statement option B means statement 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question, but not 1. C means both 1 and 2 together are sufficient. 1 alone, 2 alone is not sufficient, but combining both I'll get the answer. D, either 1 alone or 2 alone. E is neither. Okay. Now what I have to do, this is a workflow that helps you to save time. First check for statement 1. Again, if it is correct, go for statement 2. If it is wrong, answer is A. Now, if statement 2 is also correct, that means individually 1 also gives me the correct answer to sufficient the question, saying that it's data sufficient. D also, that is option 2, statement 2 also tell me that the question, it can be answered from this statement. So I have to go with option either 1 or 2. Clear? You'll get more clarity, don't get confused. You'll get more clarity when we start actually solving the problems. Okay? Now, that is about statement 1. If statement 1 happens to be not correct, not sufficient, okay, that means I'll exclude these two options. D and A will not be correct. Now, statement 2 again. If statement 2 is correct, that means 2 is not sufficient, 1 is sufficient. I can simply go with option B, where statement 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question, but not 1. Clear? Now, if statement 2 is not sufficient, don't rush for option A. Again, check by combining both. That means combining first statement and second statement. 1 alone, 2 alone is not sufficient, but after combining, if you get the answer, then you go with option C. That means both 1 and 2 together. This means 1 alone is not sufficient to satisfy the data. 2 alone is not sufficient, but when we combine 1 and 2 together, the combined data is enough to answer the question. And finally, after combining also you don't get any answer, then we go for option E, that is neither. Clear? This is the workflow. You will get more clarity when we start solving actual problems. Okay, so let's proceed further. So same thing what I have discussed in the previous slides, I have given you more informative. So statement 1 alone is sufficient. If this is yes, then I'll check E statement 2 alone is sufficient. Again that is no, then answer is correct. If statement 1 alone is sufficient, statement 2 alone is insufficient, then answer A is the answer. Option A is the answer. If statement 1 alone is sufficient, statement 2 alone is also sufficient, then I'll go for D. D means either 1 or 2. Now, if statement 1 alone is not sufficient or insufficient, then I'll go for statement 2. And statement 2 alone is sufficient, then the answer is option B, where it states B alone is sufficient. Now, statement 1 alone is insufficient, statement 2 alone is also insufficient. Then what I do, I'll combine 1 and 2, or statement 1 and 2 together sufficient. If alone they are insufficient, but after combining they are sufficient, then I'll go for option C, where option is both 1 and 2. And finally, after combining also you are not getting any answer to be sufficient, then answer is E, neither 1 nor 2 statements are sufficient to answer the question. This is a workflow as indicated in the previous slide. Here, now this is one of the effective way of crossing the answers. Okay, now same thing which follows the previous couple of slides. So statement 1, if it's sufficient, your answer will be either A or D. B, C, E will be eliminated, because in option B, statement 1 should be insufficient, option C also statement 1 should be insufficient, option E also it should be insufficient. So when statement 1 is sufficient, either you can have only one, that is option statement 1 alone is sufficient, or 1 or 2 together. Similarly, if statement 1 is insufficient, you can have 3 options, B, C or E. Okay. In these 3, So statement 1 is stated to be insufficient alone. Now similar thing is applicable for statement 2. If statement 2 is sufficient, I can either have option B or D as an answer, because B states 2 alone is sufficient, D states 1 as well as 2, that is 1 or 2. And similarly statement 2 is insufficient, A would be the answer because A states only 1 is sufficient, so 2 is insufficient. Or C might be the answer because 1 alone, 2 alone is not sufficient, but 1 or 2 is insufficient. And E would be the answer. That means neither 1 nor 2. Clear? Now, finally, statement 1 is insufficient and statement 2 is insufficient. Then combine statements, you get the answer. Okay? Let us start our first example. So it's quite interesting one. Now, this is an example that best describes data sufficiency. And there is no restriction in the topic. They can cover any aptitude or any reasoning topic in it. Okay. In which year Praveen was born? My concern is not particularly year, but my concern is there are two statements given. Which statement gives me the answer? I have 5 options as stated in the previous slide. Okay. So A states 1 alone is sufficient, B states 2 alone is sufficient, C. So C. Both statement 1 and 2 together. Okay. So 1 alone not sufficient, 2 alone is not sufficient, but both 1 and 2 is sufficient. D is either 1 or 2. E is neither. Now, first statement. Praveen at present 25 years younger to his father. If father is okay. If Praveen at present is 25 years younger to his father. If father is X, Praveen is X minus 25. Clear? But does this information give me when Praveen was born? No. So option 1 alone is insufficient. When A alone is insufficient, what are the questions I can what are the options I can cross it? I can cross option A, D. So my answer would be either B, C, or E. Okay, so it can be either B, C, or E. Next, Praveen's brother, who was born in 1964, he is 35 years younger to his father. So Praveen's brother was born in 1964. Okay, so between Praveen's brother and father, the gap is 35 years. Okay, so if 1964 Praveen was born, Praveen's brother was born with 35 years gap. So obviously, when Praveen was born with 25 years gap, he would have born in 1974. That is the answer. So that means how I got the answer? I got the answer by combining 1, 2. So 1 alone is not sufficient, 2 alone is not sufficient, but 1 and 2 together is sufficient. Answer is option C. That is how data sufficiency problems are solved. Clear? See, what is the answer? No need to get involved in much in it. My exact value doesn't count, but do I get the answer by taking one statement or two statements or combining both? That is my concern. Hope everybody is clear with this. Okay, now, so let us go with the second option question. So there is a question given. What will be the total weight of 10 poles, each of same weight? Okay. Now there are 10 poles, each of same weight. I want to find what is the total weight. Now first statement, 1/4 of the weight of each pole is X, 5 kgs. Let's say each pole weighs X kg. One pole X kg. So it is given that 1/4 of the weight, that is X by 4 is 5 kgs. So X equal to 20. Okay. So each pole is 20 kgs. Now they're asking 10 poles. So 10 into 20 will become 200. So 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question from the given statements. But check for 2 also. Don't be in a hurry and rush for the next question. Now here, the total weight of 3 poles is 20 kilograms more than the total weight of 2 poles. That means 3x minus 2x equal to 20. x equal to, again I got 20, same like this, and obviously I need 10x, so 10x will be 200. So 2 alone is also sufficient to answer the question. So my answer is 1 or 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question. So in the given options, my answer is option D. So I'm showing you this, so understand this. Either 1 or 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question. But again, in the exam, be careful with the order of options, it might change. Clear with this? So either 1 or 2, option D. Clear? Okay. Next. So you can pause this video and try to solve this question. And the best part is many people end up with wrong answers. That's the beauty of this, because they are here to confuse you. Now I think this question comes under blood relationships. Okay. Now, third one. How many children does M have? First statement. H is the only daughter of X, who is the only wife of M. So H is the only daughter of X, who is the only wife of M. I have drawn a family tree diagram where square represents male, circle represents female, double line means they are couple, and H is the next generation, that is daughter. Okay. K and J are brothers of M. K and J are brothers of M. So clearly, second statement is not sufficient to answer the question, because it is not giving any information how many children does M have. So many people will be in a rush and they'll take this, but hold. This question, this option is also wrong, because it is given H is the only daughter of X. That means M daughter is also H, correct? Because they are couple. H is also daughter of M, but they have given information. M has one female child, but number of male child information is not given. When we see only word, if I say my only son is doctor, this means that how many children I have? I'm not giving any information on number of children. This means I have only one male child who is a doctor, and I can have zero female child or more than one female child. That's it. If I have one son and one daughter, I never use the word called only. If I have one male child and more than one female child or no female child, then only I use the word called only. So here there is no clear cut information of how many children does M have, but M has only one female child. M might have zero male child or more than one male child. That information is not given. So finally the answer is option E. Neither one, nor two. So be very careful with this, not even for this topic, even in blood relationships. Only is something that ends up with confusion. Clear? Okay, if you have further doubts in blood relation, there is a other video in my channel on blood relationship. You can go through it to get further clarity. Clear? Okay. Next question. How much was the total revenue of the company? So we in this question they have asked you to find the total revenue of the company from the given statement. So statement 1, the company sold 8,000 units of product A is costing 25 rupees. That means through product A, the total revenue of the company is 25 into 8,000 rupees. But is there any necessity to multiply this? Definitely not required. If you want, you can multiply, but it's not required. But statement 1 has leave us with a question mark. When there is something called product A, there also can be something called product B, because I should not make any assumption, correct? Now statement 2 quickly gives the information. This company has no other product line except product A. That means statement 2 is supporting statement 1 to strengthen his statement. So option will be both 1 and 2. That is answer. So neither 1 alone nor 2 alone, but both 1 and 2 is sufficient to answer the question. Clear? Very good. That is fourth question. So let us proceed further. Next question. So please pause the slide video and just Try to solve it by yourself. I am sure definitely you'll get the answer. The last Sunday of March 2006 fell on which date? Okay, this is a question. I want to find out the exact date on which the last Sunday of March fell. So you obviously every month will have either 4 or 5 Sundays. I want to find when was the last Sunday of that March in 2006. Okay, no prior information is required. You have to only derive from the given statement. Now statement 1. The first Sunday of March fell on 5th. Okay, from this, if first Sunday is on 5th, you add plus 7. Second Sunday will become on 12th. Similarly, adds plus 7 and so on. Definitely you end up with correct answer. So first statement alone is sufficient to answer the question. What is the answer is my least concern. Whether the data is sufficient or not. Yes, it is sufficient. That's it. Now, second one. The last day of the month was Friday. That means March has how many days? 31 days. So March 31st was Friday. So March 30 will be Thursday. You go in this reverse order, you will get when was the last Sunday. So both the statements will give correct answer individually. So my answer is either one or two is sufficient to answer the question. One alone or two alone. Clear? So anybody having any doubts, you can just comment in the comment section. So we'll be replying to it. Clear? Okay, let us go with the next question. So here, if you see, each and every question covers one more topic. So the last question is covering calendars. The before question covers simplification part. The before question covers blood relationship. Here it also is a simplification part. Here it covers ages. Okay, that is algebra. So entire stuff of aptitude and reasoning might be asked in data sufficiency. So you have to be extra careful and have prior knowledge to it. Okay. Now this question particularly refers seating arrangement or ranking. So how many children are there in row of the children? That is a question. So first statement. Vishakha, who is fifth from the left end of left end, is eighth to the left of Ashish, who is 12th from the right end. Okay. So it's a linear arrangement. This is an arrow mark. That means they are facing this side. So there will be left hand, this will be right hand. Now Vishakha is fifth from the left hand. So including Vishakha, there are 5 people. Okay. And is eighth to the left of Ashish. From Ashish, she is 8th position. That means including Ashish, there are 7 people. Including Vishakha, there are 5. Including Ashish, there are 7. And who is 12th from the right hand? That means except Ashish, there are 11. So how many people are there in the row? 5 plus 7 plus 11. So 12 plus 11 is 23. Okay. So first statement is enough to get the information of how many children are there in the room. And one more thing, you need not to get the same answer in this case also. This case, if you get 22 also, but you are getting an answer, that is a correct answer. Okay. Now let me check statement 2. So statement 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question. Now let me check statement 2. Rohit is 5th to the left of Nisha, who is 7th from the right end and 18th from the left end. Okay. Now, if you see and observe, if you are smart enough with ranking and seating arrangement, Rohit is 5th of left of Nisha. This is not even required because Nisha, they are clearly mentioned, is 7th from the right. So Nisha's position from the right is 7 and from the left end is 18. So that means how many people are there in the row? 8 plus 7, 18 plus 7 minus 1 because Nisha is repeated twice. So indirectly is 18 plus 6. Answer will be 24. Okay. Now here also I might have done some mistake. The calculation part. Okay. So Vishakha is 5th from the left hand and is 8th to the left of Ashish. 8th to the left of Ashish. So including Ashish, there are 7 people. and Ashish is 12th from the right end. So there are 11 people. 11 plus 7 is 18 plus 5, 23. Here 7 plus 18. Okay, Nisha is 7th from the right and 18th from the left. So 18 plus 7 is 25 minus 1, 24. Even though I am getting different answers, both are correct. That means either 1 or 2 is sufficient to answer the question. So I got 23 here, 24 here. If I have done any mistakes, please comment here so that I'll correct it. Okay, that is the answer for this. Next, seventh one. How many pages of book X did Gaurav read on Sunday? And one more thing is, people get deep involved in this kind of question. Always keep it simple. Don't get too much involved so that you'll end up with confusion. I am very clear with this question. How many pages of book X? There is a book called X book. Did Gaurav read on Sunday? I want to know how many he read on Sunday. That's it. See, first statement. The book has 300 pages, out of which two-thirds were read by him before Sunday. That means two-thirds of 300. How much? 200 pages have been read before Sunday. But can I assume that remaining all 100 pages did he read on Sunday? No, he can read on Monday, Tuesday as well. So I'm not making any assumption. But statement 1 is alone not sufficient, but it has given me a clarity that 200 pages have been completed. Statement 2. Gaurav read last 40 pages of book on Monday morning. That means last 40 he has read on Monday. And don't be too smart saying that okay, he would have skipped the 60 pages Monday, again Tuesday he would have done. No, that is what. Don't think too much. So last 40 he read, 200 before Sunday. So on Sunday how many he has read? 60 pages. How I got 60? By combining 1 and 2. So statement 1 alone is insufficient, 2 alone is insufficient, but combining 1 and 2 will give me the answer. Clear? Okay. That is seventh question. So let me go for the next one. So again, this is related to blood relationship. So be very careful. How is Tanvi related to the man in the photograph? So I would like you to just pause this video and try the answer by yourself. Let's see whether you'll get the correct answer. Okay, fine. So how is Tanvi related to the man in the photograph? So there is one person's photo. We want to find the relationship of that man with Tanvi. So first, man in the photograph is the only son of Tanvi's grandfather. Okay. Now, here, man in the photograph is the only son of Tanvi's grandfather. So, grandfather, there is no clarity. It can be maternal grandfather or paternal grandfather. Let me take both the cases. If it's maternal, that means Tanvi's mother's father is grandfather. Okay. Tanvi's grandfather's only son. That means Tanvi will have more than one aunt. Okay, to be precise, Tanvi's grandfather will have more than one daughter and only one son. So how is the man related to Tanvi? So this man is Tanvi's maternal uncle. Man in the photograph is the only son of Tanvi's grandfather. Tanvi's grandfather's only son is Tanvi's uncle. If it is maternal case. If it is paternal case, so man in the photograph is the only son of Tanvi's grandfather. That means here it will be Tanvi's father. But still I have more than one answer. It can be Tanvi's father or uncle. Nothing is clear. So let me see the second statement, then we'll decide whether first one is correct or not. But obviously first one is incorrect because I'm getting more than one answer. It can be father or uncle. Second one. The man in the photograph has no brother or sister and his father is Tanvi's grandfather. So man in the photograph has no brothers, no sisters and his father is Tanvi's grandfather. So this gives full clarity that this man is Tanvi's father. So answer for this is option B. That is, one alone is not sufficient, but two alone is sufficient to answer the question. Clear? Okay, good. Next, ninth. What is Girish age? Again, it comes into ages. That is algebra. simplified version. So try by yourself, you'll get the answer. Statement 1. So Girish, Vimal and Kunal are of same ages. That means G equal to V equal to K. But do I get the Girish age here? Because Vimal Kunal is not given. So one alone is insufficient to answer the question. Let me go for second one. Total age of Vimal and Kunal and Anil. So Vimal plus Kunal plus Anil is 32 years and Anil is as old as Vimal plus Kunal. Again, 2 alone is insufficient. But try to combine. See, G equal to V equal to K. That means VK I can write it as 2G, correct? This is G, this is G because it is G. So A equal to 2G. Again here V equal to G, K equal to G. So what do we get? G plus G, A value is 2G equal to 32. So G 4G equal to 32. So G equal to 8. Now I got Girish age exactly from combining 1 and 2. That means my answer 1 alone is insufficient, 2 alone is sufficient, but both 1 and 2 is sufficient to answer the question. Whatever is the option. Getting it? Okay, fine. Next. So now we have come to one more important topic, that is coding decoding is also important and it is also asked in data substrate. So there is no limit here. They can ask anything until unless your logical thinking is concerned. Now, so in a code, certain code, 1.3 means stop smoking. 5.9 means injurious habit. What do 9 and 5 means respectively in that code? Okay. So I want to find what is 9 and what is 5. So 9 and 5 is injurious habit. 9 can be either injurious or habit. I don't know what it is. Now let me say statement 1. 157 means stop bad habit. Now compare 157 and 559. Which number is common? 5 is common. Correct? And which word is common? Habit is common. So that means 5 means habit. When 5 means habit, what does 9 means? 9 means injurious. That means 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question. Clear? Okay. Now let me check second option. So 839. So 59. What is the common number? 9 is common. Injurious habit, smoking is injurious. Which is common? Injurious is common. So obviously 9 means injurious. When 9 means injurious, what is 5? 5 means habit. So again 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question. So 1 alone is sufficient, 2 alone. That means either 1 or 2 are sufficient to answer the question individually. That is the answer for this. Clear? Okay. Let us go for the next question. 11th one. How much money do Rakshita and Malvika has together? Sorry, Rishita and Malvika. Now, so I want to find what is the total amount of money they have together. First statement. Malvika has 20 rupees less than what Tarun has. So Malvika has, let's say Tarun has X. What does Malvika has? 20 rupees less than Tarun. Now, Rishita has 30 rupees more than what Tarun has. So Rishita has X plus 30. Now, but still, when you add M plus R, I'm not going to get anything. It's 2x plus 10. But I don't know what is X value. How much Tarun has, I don't know. That means answer is option E, neither 1 nor 2 will give me the answer. Neither 1 nor 2 will give me the answer. Clear? Okay. That is the answer. Because I don't know what is, if I would have known what is Tarun's money has, then I would have got the answer. So it is neither 1 nor 2. Next, 12th one. Vicky's and Javi's salary are in the proportion 4 is to 3 respectively. What is Vicky's salary? Statements. First one. Okay, if you see Vicky and Javed, they have the salary in the proportion 4 is to 3. And what is Vicky's salary they want to find. Okay. Now Javi's salary is 75% of Vicky's salary. So Javid's salary is 75% of what Vicky get. So if Vicky get 100%, Javid gets 75. Again, you'll end up with 4:3, but you don't know what is the value here. So 1 is not sufficient, insufficient, because it is giving the same value. Now second one, Javid's salary is 4,500. So Javid's salary is 4,500. That means 3 parts is 4,500. What is 4 parts? 6,000. So this gives me the answer. The answer is option B. 1 alone is insufficient, but 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question. Clear? So that is the answer for this. Now, let us go with the next one. How is A related to D? B is the brother of A. So B is the brother of A. B is D's son. B is D's son. How is A related to D? A related. So A is son or daughter? I don't know. So answer is neither. E. So because I get two options here, either son or daughter. If you get more than one option, definite data is insufficient. So neither, one or two. Neither one nor two. So both alone are insufficient. Combining also it's insufficient. So answer is option E. Neither one nor two. Okay, next one. How is no coded in the code language? So it's also quite simple. Just check with statement 1. So NEPASICLO means but, no, none, and PALOLE means if, none, and but. Now what you have to do is first compare two English sentences. So but is common, correct? What is common? None is common, none is common. No and if, okay, and is common, and is common. Clear? Now, which code words are common? NE is common, NE is common. Next, PA is common, PA is common. Next, LO is common, LO is common. So if means LE, here no means SIC. That means one alone is sufficient to answer me the question to get the coded language of the code word for no. Now check for second. Compare the English sentence. If no, none will. Not none, if all. So if is common, strike if, and none is common, strike none. No will, not all. So nothing is common here. So again, if you see what is common here, LE is common. Again, what is common here? SC is common. That's it. So that means no can be either NE or SIC. I don't have any clear cut clarity. That means there is more than one information that states the given statement. So 2 is not insufficient. 1 alone is sufficient. So answer is option A. That is the answer for this given question. Clear? Okay, good. Next, 15th one. Who among P, Q, T, V, M is exactly in the middle when they are arranged in ascending order of their height? Ascending order of their height means it has to start from the one who is shorter to the taller. Okay. Now let's go with this. V is taller than Q. So V is taller than Q, but shorter than M. That means M will be at the top. V is taller than Q, but shorter than M. So this doesn't give me what is the thing. Okay. Next, T is taller than Q. T is taller than Q and M. Okay, T is taller than Q and M. Okay, that means T should come here, not here. T is taller than Q and M, but shorter than P. So P. So the arrangement is P, T, M, V, Q. So if you want, again cross verify. V is taller than Q, V is taller than Q, but shorter than M, correct? T is taller than Q and M. T is taller than Q and M, but shorter than P. So this is a correct ascending order. The whereas Q is the shorter, P is the tallest. Now, who is in the middle? So middle is M. So how I got M? By clubbing both 1 and 2. So 1 alone and 2 alone is insufficient, but both 1 and 2 together is sufficient to answer the question. That is the answer. Clear? Okay. Let's move forward. So here, this is a question. Which code word stands for good in the coded sentence SINCOBY, which means he is good? So I have to find the logic, the code word which is coded for good from this. Now, statement one. In the same code language, COMOT det means they are good. Now, he is good, they are good. So what is common? Good is common. So sync by co-met det. So what is common? Co is common. That means what is a what you call code word for good? CO. So one alone is sufficient to answer the question. Yes or no? Now compare this. He is honest. He is good. So he and this is common. Okay, let me erase that one. Okay. He and is common. Comparing the second one. He and is common. Now if you see SIN is common. BY is common. So obviously what is good means go. Again second also I am getting the same answer. So answer is either one or two alone is sufficient to answer the question. Hope this is clear. Good. So let us move forward. So these are the numerical what you call coding. What is the numerical code for water in a certain coding system? The code for give me water is 719. The code for you can bring water for me is 574186. Now simple thing, compare 719 and this one. That's it simple. Now 719. 7 is common, strike off 7. 1 is common, strike off 1. That's it. So here also give me water. What is common here? Water is common, water is striked off. Next, me is striked off, me is striked off. That means either 7 or 1 means water. But I don't know what exactly the water numerical code means. So my answer is A, neither. Option E, neither one nor two follows, because give means 9, that I can conclude, but water can be either 7 or 1. Here also water can be either 7 or 1. So I'm not getting the exact answer. The answer is neither. So don't be in a rush. Always have some cool mind to solve these problems. You can end up with correct answer in less time. Clear? Okay. Now, next question. How many visitors saw the exhibition yesterday? Statement. Each entry pass holder can take up 3% with him or her. So each pass holder can take up 3%. In all, 243 passes were sold. Now if you see, 243 passes were sold and each person can have up to 3 people. That means he can have either 1% or 2% or 3%. If every person has only 1% with him, that is 243. 2 means into 2, 3 means into 3. Again we have subcategory. Few people can have 1, few people can have 2. So you should not make any assumption. So answer is neither 1 nor 2 follows. Option E. Because it is clearly mentioned pass holder can take up to 3 people. So it's not a compulsion. They should not exactly take 3. It can be up to. So some people can go with one alone, single alone. Some can go as a couple or take. Some people can take both the people with them. That is 3 people. So there is no clarity here. Okay. So we cannot give the exact number how many visitors saw the exhibition yesterday. Okay. Very good. Next. So what time did the train leave today? So here, the train normally leaves on time. The scheduled departure is at 2:30. So because the scheduled departure is at 2:30, the train normally leaves on time. So it has to be both 1 and 2. Because the scheduled departure is this, but did it leave on time? First statement gives a clarity, it left on time. So both 1 and 2 alone is sufficient, combining together is sufficient to answer the question. Clear? Okay. Now, so it is a coding decoding with number symbol codings. Now, what does dollar mean in the code language? Such statement. So this means flower are really good. This means good flowers are available. Now, first, it's better I do strike off the English words which are common. So flowers are common. Or are common. Good is common. Okay, strike up the numbers here. 5 5 is common, 3 3 is common, hash hash is common. So what is left out? Dollar. And what is left out? Really. So dollar means really. How I got it? By clubbing both 1 and 2. Alone is insufficient, but clubbing both 1 and 2 I get that. Hope you are clear with this. Next. How many sons does D have? Okay. A's father has 3 children. A's father has 3 children, including A, obviously. B is A's brother. B is A's brother. Okay. And son of D. And son of D. So here D can be mother or father. It is my least concern. So D can be here or D can be here. Now question is, how many sons does D have? So A's father has 3 children, correct? So 3 can be male or 3 can be female, or it can be 1 male, 2 female, like that. A's father has 3 children. A's father has 3 children. Okay, in these 3, there is only one clarity, is B is A's brother, so B is a male. Okay, and son of D. But if they ask how many children does D have, answer is 3. But how many sons they have, I don't know what is the gender of A, and I don't know who is the third person. So answer is neither. Neither 1 nor 2. So be very clear with the precise information, or else you end up with confusion. Clear with this? Okay. So this is also quite interesting question. So try to solve this. How is M related to M? P, who has only 2 kids. So P has only 2 kids. M and N. E is mother-in-law of Q. E is mother-in-law. So P is a female of Q. So Q is married to some person, M or N, I don't know. And sister-in-law of N. So P is sister-in-law of N. That means P is husband's brother or sister. Now how is M related to N? How is M related to N? So M is niece or nephew of N, because I don't know the gender of Q. I don't know gender of M. Nothing is clear. So only thing is M is neither niece or nephew of N. That I can say, because N is paternal uncle or aunt. That is from first statement. Second one, R, the sister-in-law of M. So R is the sister-in-law of M. E is daughter-in-law of S. E is daughter-in-law of S, who has only 2 kids, M and N. Okay. How is M related to N? R, the sister-in-law of M. R is the sister-in-law of M, because R is married to N. E is the daughter-in-law of S. Okay, S is given. Who has only 2 kids? S has only 2 kids, N and M. Now here, how is M related to N? N is brother of M, but again, M gender is not given. How is M related? M might be brother or sister. Here M might be, one second. Okay, my mistake. There are some mistake I have done here. Okay, I would like to correct it. How is M related to N? P, who has only 2 kids. So P has 2 kids, M and N. He is mother-in-law of Q. Q's mother-in-law is P, who is sister-in-law of N. Uh, Q is the sister-in-law of N. Okay, there was a mistake in the previous explanation. This is a diagram. So here M is brother of N. That is clear. But here If you see R, the sister-in-law of M, is daughter-in-law of S, who has two kids, M and N. Now, if you see, M is brother or sister of N here, but M is brother of N. This is more clear. The answer is one is the answer. Option statement one. Okay, apologies for the confusion. Sometimes it gets confused, but it's quite easy. Okay, so there are further problems I would like to practice, and all the best with that. Any doubts, please don't hesitate to post comments on it. Thank you so much.